Hello! Here's to all the crummy people, not the ones living on scraps, but the ones who are giving all that they've got, even when all that you may have right now is only crumbs. Don't keep waiting to serve a full course meal. Someone out there is starving, and your little crumb, it's more than enough to feed them right now. Let's talk more about that. Hi, my name is Steve Kidd. I'm a third generation minister, international best-selling author of soon to be 39 books. Got 38 done, and the 39th one is done, just not published yet. I've had the wonderful, amazing privilege of working with over 5,000 people, helping them write, publish, market their books to bestseller, and everything that goes beyond that. But really, more than all of that, what I really do, even as a 39-year marketing company, having done sales since I was 5 years old, with all of that in place, what I really do, what I really am here for, is just to simply help you get clear, to be seen, to be known, to make an impact. And yes, from that, you will make money. But it's all about, it all starts with clarity. You need someone to help you get clear. You see, your heart to connect with. I know you, I see you, I know you want to make an impact. That's a heart condition. That's where connection comes from. It comes from your heart. Okay. Consistency, that's a strategy. That's a system, really. It's about doing just like I did. And we're going on like 6 weeks now, okay, where I just went to my calendar and I just blocked off the noon hour central time. And yeah, sometimes you have days like today where your computer is really running slow and you're like, oh man, I gotta restart that. And when I went down to do the restart, I realized, oh, you've got an update. And whenever you have an update that's pending, it just seems to just drag the heck out of your computer. Um, and so I did that restart. And it, of course, as they always do, took a little longer. So yeah, I was like 10 minutes beyond the 10 o'clock, the noon hour central time. And that's okay. That's why I always tell you every single day, I send out a post on Facebook every morning, somewhere between 10 and 11:30, saying that yes, I will go in. And if I know positively, because sometimes I have an appointment, that goes until 12:30 or something like that. And in those particular cases, then what I need to do is, when I know it, I'm going to tell you, hey, we won't be live until 12:30. That's as late as I've gone, and I try to hold this time really sacred, really special, really specifically for you. So usually, like today, I mean, I did the reboot, and then I came in, and I had it all set up, and it was all ready to go. And then for whatever reason, the entire setup in StreamYard was completely lost. So I had to rewrite the whole thing and reformat the whole thing, and so it took a few more minutes, and that's okay. We're here. We're together. And maybe what I have for you today, maybe it'll feel crummy. I don't mean that from the standpoint. I have a book that I'm teasingly writing, okay? And whether I will write it or not, I don't know. This came out of a conversation Willie J and I were having the other day. Um, and it's about, living your crummy life. And it's really aimed at Christians who are really happy with living on the crumbs off of the table. I'm not talking about those kind of people. I'm not talking about someone who is satisfied with okay and thankful for crumbs. I'm talking about the fact that that little thing that that little morsel that for sure. I always love to use this example because my granddaughter, Tia, back when she was about 8 years old, she was so excited. I mean, her mom was working with us at that time, and she was like, "Mom, I want to write a book. I want to be a best-selling author." I love kids like that. They're fearless and they see it as completely possible. And so Amber, my daughter, asked her, well, what do you want to write about? And she sat and she thought about it for a little bit. She's like, I want to write about how I met my best friend. That's what she knew. That was the thing in her life that was massively powerful for her right now in the day that's called today. If you ask her now, she's into a whole bunch of other things, and she's like 15 now. So, I mean, it's a night and day difference. It's like a whole totally different person exists in the space that has that DNA. Okay. I mean, that's just the way, especially in those teen years, right? But I love using that example because the how I met my best friend in that simple, innocent 8-year old way was such an amazing thing. And absolutely, yes, we did help her write it. We edited it, produced it, made a cover for it, all those kind of things. And we did absolutely make it a #1 international bestseller. You can better best believe it. I mean, I've made more than 5,000 people bestsellers with 100% success. I was going to make my granddaughter a bestseller. And it's a perfect example. I mean, we work with moms who, are writing books. I had one mom that was just really basically writing a book for her daughter who was getting ready to start school to kind of help her get pumped and excited about school because she was experiencing that very normal 5-year-old fear of starting kindergarten or 6-year-old fear of starting first grade, I think actually what it was. And so she wrote that book. And she's like, I want to put this out. I want it to be a full book for her. I was like, well, let's not just mess around here. Let's make it a bestseller. This is not me shamelessly plugging you coming and working for me, for working with me to make your book a bestseller. If you've got a book, it needs to be a bestseller. I can tell you from a marketer standpoint, the foundation to everything you're ever going to do in marketing is being a best-selling author. It's a night and day difference. It's the difference between you being one of the 2 million people this year that are going to write a book or being a best-selling author, being the top tier, the elite, having a phrase. It's the same thing. And people are like, well, does that really make as much of a difference these days? Absolutely, it does. Just the same as when the doctor, and I've used this example for you before, when the doctor walks into the room and you're sick, you don't grill him about where did he go to school, what place did he graduate in his class, what was his GPA, what grade did he get on his finals, where did he go for his internship, where did he go for his residency. I mean, you don't grill him about any of those things. You immediately jump into, I've got this icky and I want you to fix it, right? That's the same thing bestseller does when we present something, especially in a business standpoint. But I mean, I've worked with people who they got raises at work because it was good for the company to be able to say, yeah, our director of blah, blah, blah is the best-selling author on the subject. Seth Godin said it best. He said, I don't need a plumber right now, but I want to know who the best-selling author on plumbing in my community is. Because when I do need a plumber, that's who I want to call. That's what it's for. Your community should already know. And that, unfortunately, is so much bigger than what you think it is. And that is almost all the time, that's the crumbs. It really is. Because normally your message, the thing you really need to be clear on, it's the crumb on the side of the table that is just sitting over there because it's so super simple for you that it doesn't make sense why anybody would need it. It's not even a crumb that, okay, let's all be real. Okay, there are certain things that are just so delicious enough that you scrape the bottom of the bowl or you lick it or whatever you do. I mean, no judgment. All right, we've all done it. Okay, it's just so good. And if there was one extra crumb, or if there's a piece of that fell off onto the plate, that it was on the bread or whatever, and it's just all by itself, you're going to go after that too. If you're a real sweetheart, and we had to stop doing this for my poor little Mocha because, because the doctor told her she was fat. And I felt so bad for her. And I still feel bad for her because I love giving her, the leftovers and the crumbs and saving a little bit of the food. Back when we lived in Cali, just Mocha and I together, I mean, I would just, every meal I made, I just make her a plate too. Now, that doesn't mean that after she mowed through her plate like it didn't exist, she wasn't right back there on my lap, looking over my plate, waiting for her to just get all the rest of my food too. That's where the phrase all food is mocha food came from. But those crumbs are often some of the best parts of it, right? My mom used to always use the phrase, a little sliver of cake. Now, my birthday is January 1st. And that could be a triggering. I think of it fondly now. But when I was a kid, New Year's Day, New Year's Eve, I mean, everybody stays up until midnight. You watch the bulb drop on TV, or, you go outside and you bang pots and pans or shoot off fireworks, or, whatever your particular, tradition is. I mean, if you're old and you live by yourself, your tradition may be to go to bed and hope to be asleep before everybody else starts shooting all the fireworks. I don't know. Whatever your thing is, doesn't matter. No judgment. But at the end of, I mean, we'd stay up, midnight had hit, Happy New Year, little sliver of cake, because then it was immediately into sing happy birthday to Steve, happy birthday. Now it's Steve's birthday. New Year's Eve is over. It's New Year's Day, Steve's birthday. And so we'd have a little sliver of cake. So you're talking cake at midnight. You really shouldn't have any cake at midnight, but it's a birthday, so you have a little sliver. Okay, that's where that phrase came from. And I love that in the concept of the crumminess. Now, yeah, I could go into the fact that most of the time what that meant was all day, New Year's Day, my birthday was now over, and it was a day to watch, college football games all day. And I just kind of played in my room with whatever present I got to open at midnight or whatever. I was kind of a happy-go-lucky, off by myself kid even back then. So don't feel bad. I mean, I made it through. But I mean, those are the crumbs. Those are the slivers. Those are little things. Those are the happy moments. You can either take and be so delighted that you got a little sliver of cake, or you can take and be so disappointed because you wanted a giant wedge of cake. You can be so grateful that you can still smell the chocolate chip cookies. We can have a whole discussion about this one. Or you can just spend your life angry and less than because you're currently on a diet where you don't eat sugar or flour. And basically, let's face it, chocolate chip cookies are just sugar and flour. Both of those are true. It's just a matter of choice. And the crumbs in our life, those sweet little morsels that to somebody else is going to be like, oh, thank you for that little sliver of cake. Oh, I'm so glad that you brought home a pizza. I mean, whatever that thing might be, and it doesn't have to be food related. I mean, if you're absolutely broke and somebody gives you $1, if you're completely not sure how you're going to really pay for the food, and you go through the McDonald's drive-through, and you've decided to, okay, let's be real. For those of you who've really been broke, you've decided that because you and the kids need to eat, you're going to overdraw your account. You have overdraft protection, so you write what you know is a bad check. I'm not condoning this, but for some of you who have lived in really deep poverty situations, you know what it's like to face that situation. And maybe you've made that choice, maybe you haven't. Either way is fine. But when you decide to do that, and you're all ready and you've got, and for the most part, McDonald's probably isn't going to take a check anymore these days, because probably of folks like us that have done things like that. That we're not proud of, but we're willing to admit, yes, I did do that. But the point being is, you drive through that drive-through. You're ready to do whatever you need to do to be able to make sure your children are fed. You take your last $20 and you go to the grocery store and you try to figure out, what can I buy for $20 that's going to feed these kids for this whole rest of this week. Or maybe you're even on food stamps and it's the end of that month. And the $20 is all that's left in there. And yeah, that you're going to get re-upped in, a week, in 10 days, and whatever. But you got to make the food last. Whatever's in the house and whatever things you're going to supplement it with, that's it. Because you're not going to let your kids go hungry. Okay? I mean, that's real talk, right? Now, the crumb for the person in the line in front of you is when they look back at your cart and they see the 3 or 4 or 5 few items that you have in your cart. And they say, oh, you can go ahead. And so you run the things through, and then the person leans forward and says to the checker, just go ahead and bag that up for them. I'm going to pay for it. And they send you on your merry way, and they pay for your food. Or they even look back and they say, I'd really like to bless you with a bag of groceries. What other things do your kids, because when you're a single parent, those of us that have been there, you understand this. The kids go to the grocery store with you. You can't just leave them home by themselves. The 12-year-old, if it's an emergency, you could leave the kids home for a few minutes with the 12-year-old, but you don't really do that. Not really. So you pack them all up in the old, you hope it doesn't break down van, and you drive to the store, and you're budgeting the whole way. And then somebody throws you what for them is a crumb. They buy you a bag of groceries. Some of us have even seen it where somebody just literally bagged up a whole bunch of things of groceries and then just handed it to us. Or came to the house and said, I really felt like you needed this. Or like when you have a death in the family or a real extreme sickness in the family, and somebody from the church or whatever brings you a casserole. Now, we could go off on the whole tangent of, people who bring you weird food, or people who, get in the back of the cupboard and put, the old yucky, dented can of whatever. I always think of, canned spinach, or whatever thing that you would never, ever, ever think of eating. I'm not talking about the people who put that in the bag and donate it to the, to the church or to the food bank or those kind of things. I'm talking about the person who, bakes you a cake, makes something really delicious, buys you a pizza and sends it over. One of the coolest situations I ever had, and I told you, I'll tell you, I went to their church. I had said, I really admire the family that our neighbors had. This was to my first wife, okay? We were talking, I was like, I really admire the neighbors. And they seem like really good, really solid people. And I don't even know if they're Christians. But if I found out they were, I would totally go to their church. And we happened to be at a place where we were looking for a new church. And I just, it was one of those conversations that husbands and wives had. And when you know it, if it wasn't that day, it was the next day. The neighbor lady comes over and she said, have you guys had dinner yet? And she's standing there with a box in her hand, so it's a little hard to hide. It's really hard to hide a pizza box. She goes, have you guys had dinner yet? I said, no, we're just getting ready to, we're just talking about what we were going to make. She's like, I bought you guys a pizza. Dinner's on me tonight. There's a little card on the top there. I'd love to have you guys come in and visit our church. There's no pressure, but if you're interested, I'd love to have you come. Oh my gosh. Right? Even if you didn't like church, you'd probably go to that church once just because that was so cool. The kids at that point, so that would have been before Alex was born. In fact, that would have been before Michael was born. So, you're talking Jessica was a baby. Amber was, 2-ish years old, 2.5. And Emily would have been 6. Okay. And wow. For a young family that is struggling to figure out how to get by and really just putting it all together. And yeah, I got married way too young and I inherited a 3-year-old day one. 19 years old, new family, 3-year-old, boom, insta family. I'm not recommending it, but it's the direction that I went. And so now you're talking 3 years later, you definitely don't have it together. It's just a reality. If you're 22 years old and you have 3 kids, or maybe I was 23 by that point, and you have 3 kids, your stuff is not together. Let's just, right? For the lady next door, it was a crumb. She didn't like spend all day doing and putting together all the fixings for a Thanksgiving dinner and, had her and her 2 sons and her husband all bringing over. They didn't go to the grocery store and spend $1,000 on groceries and bring us 25 bags of groceries. She just bought a simple, basic pizza and just handed it and said, "Here, I bought you guys dinner." What are the crumbs in your life? Because as I was getting ready to say, and then I, wanted to use a couple examples. What is that thing that you do so easily that you're not even thinking about it being something that would be of any value to anybody else? You're like, oh, pish posh. Everybody knows how to do dishes. Well, of course my neighbors have food to eat. What if they don't? Here's a secret that you probably don't know. In a lot of the churches in America today, and not just in America, around the world, quite literally what you put into the offering plate may determine whether or not the pastor's family eats this week. Now, you putting in your whatever, your dollar, your $100, your whatever, for you, that's a crumb. That's a piece. That's a tenth. That's a portion. That's a gift. That's a, whatever, what I've got in my wallet kind of a thing. That's how we usually look at it. That's a crumb. But for them, that can literally be, not to be a drama queen in this whole thing or whatever, but can literally be life and death for them. It really can. So what are your crumbs? What is that thing that you do so easily that you don't even think about it? It's like, you're not writing a book about it. You haven't taught a lesson on it. If we do a clarity session, you're not going to be like, "Hey, Steve, I'd really like to get clear on how to tie my shoes." For somebody who doesn't know how to tie their shoes, we used this example the other day. I love this example. I'm going to use it a lot more. Imagine being a full-grown adult and you never learned how to tie your shoes. I was talking in that same live that I did about the lady who teaches swimming to adults that have never learned how to swim. And I did an interview with her on my radio show, and we were both like totally, outside of my realm of even something that I knew was a possibility, because I've been swimming since I was, a toddler. I just, that's the way swimming works. You get in the pool and you swim. That's the way you tie your shoes. You just put the shoe on and then boom, and really, if somebody, for most of us, that thing is so easy that we probably couldn't teach it. It's too easy. It's not the heart and soul and core of our passion. So in other words, I'm not telling you, to go and find that thing that is just so ridiculously easy for you. That's not the point, because your passion and your purpose have to come in with this. That's where the clarity comes in. But what I'm telling you is the thing that you do so well that you discount it, that you've assumed everybody must know how to do this, when in truth, there's somebody struggling, somebody that's desperately needing that exact thing. And they're not doing it. They can't do it because you're not sharing it. Because for you, you're like, everybody knows how to do that. And you're not even teaching it. You need the clarity The person suffering in your silence deserves the clarity. They want the crumbs. I can guarantee you. I used to do this. It was so much fun. Um, when I was working in downtown Portland, I took the train into work every day, and and then at lunch we would go to different places for lunch. All right, just normal. I was consulting for a startup company in internet space, blah blah blah, and every day we would go to lunch. And for a while there, McDonald's had this really cool promotion where a hamburger was 29 cents and a cheeseburger was 39 cents, and you could buy as many of them as you wanted to, really. So if you bought 10 cheeseburgers, all right, that was $4, $3.90, because Oregon doesn't have tax. Okay, $3.90. And if you wanted to just do hamburgers, it was $3, $2.90. Okay. And I would often, and depending on how well I was doing, because I was a single parent of 5, okay? So it wasn't like I was rolling in dough, all right? But I could afford $3 or maybe even 6. A lot of times I would go with the hamburger versus the cheeseburger so that I could buy 20 of them rather than, so rather than being $4, I could go up to $6 and I could get 20 rather than getting 10. And I would literally walk back with a bag full of those burgers on purpose, because the nature of downtown Portland, there's a lot of people that are panhandling there. Now, there's the people that are truly in need, and there are the kids from Beaverton. That's one of the richer suburbs, or Lake Oswego, another one of the richer suburbs of Portland, that think it's cool to ride the train. Their parents spent the $40, I think it was then, for them to have an unlimited max, is what the light rail is called there, max ticket. And they would ride the train in every day in their worst clothes, and they would sit on the street and they would beg for money, and they thought they were cool. They thought that was awesome to do. Don't ask me why, okay? I don't understand that mentality at all. But you could always tell with that bag of burgers, because the person, everybody, every single one of them you walk by, spare quarter, spare quarter, spare quarter. That was back when quarter was what they were still asking for. I mean, I feel like with the way the economy is right now, people would be asking if you got a spare 20 just to be able to, whatever, buy a soda is the way it feels like economically has the last couple of years. But, you walk back with that bag of burgers and you just say, I'm sorry, I don't have that, but here, have a burger. Now, the people who were homeless, they were grateful. At most, they would say, is there any possibility I can have 2? And absolutely, most of the time they didn't ask for 2. Or if they asked for 2, it was because, they wanted one for the person sitting next to them. It wasn't a selfishness thing. Now, there were a few of them, many of them actually. It's interesting how many people that are homeless that own and that have a dog with them. There were many of them that wanted the second one for their dog. And, for me, I mean, like the dog wanted to be homeless. I mean, the people didn't want to be homeless, even less did the dog, right? And you walked back and you give out those 20 burgers. And the people who, were rich kids that were just there having fun, thought it was cool that they could come back with a pocket full of money, having panhandled all the business people working in downtown Portland. They would not just say no, but they would be angry. They would get all angry and irate with you that you would offer them a burger. Or even worse yet, when they accepted it and they saw that it wasn't a cheeseburger, they'd throw it at you because the burger, oh my gosh, you're such a cheapskate, you couldn't even put cheese on the burger. You see, they're both crumbs, and they're both you sharing your crumbs. For the person who isn't the right fit, isn't the person for your crumbs, let them throw the burger back at you. Catch it if you can. Because the next guy, I guarantee you, when we were in Paris, France, with the group that I toured with my summer after high school. Some of the girls, I mean, one of the days when we were in Paris, it was a day off for our tour group, and we spent the day in Paris. And at lunch, there was in the budget money for us all to go to Burger King, and they had pre-ordered, so we just had to go up and get it. And it was a Whopper and a medium fry and like a medium drink, and they handed you the cup and you went and filled up whatever drink you wanted, right? And some of the girls, all that was too much food for them, you know, and some of them threw away. And there were homeless people that were standing there watching, and they would immediately go and dig through the trash and get that half a burger or a quarter of a burger or whatever and dig it out. That's true hunger. That's crumbs. But that was also life and sustenance for them. Now, had we known, and I know because we all commented, it's like, oh man, if we had known, we'd have just offered them. I mean, some of the girls, in fact, there was a couple of them that had just sat down with their burger and they're like, I'm not even going to eat all or most of this at all. And they just started handing it to the homeless people. They were on a diet anyway, right? Those are your crumbs. That thing that you have so well, that you do so well, that you just assume everybody else. You're sitting there eating your burger and you just figure everybody else got to eat lunch today too, when there are people literally up the street, in the park, around the corner from you that haven't eaten at all today. And that half or quarter of a burger is literally the difference of life or death for them. Your words, your message, who you are, you speaking up clearly, consistently. You didn't think I was going to bring it back around, did you? Clearly, consistently, with a heartfelt connection every single day. Those are your crumbs. And there's somebody that is Thanksgiving dinner for them. That is a buffet for them. It may feel like, you took the crumblies from the saltine crackers that were on your plate and you just brushed them into a pile before you brushed them off the table. You collect them all together and then you brush it off the table into your hands and you throw it in the trash. That handful of crumbs that you're getting ready to throw away, that you do nothing with, those crumbs are, to quote, the phrase from Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, they are the Turkish delight, the most deliciously wonderful candy ever in the world. Now, I've never actually had Turkish delight, and I don't know whether it's actually good or not at all. But, for an English person writing a book to children, that was the candy that he chose. Maybe here in the United States, we'd be talking about chocolate chip cookies or Twinkies or, whatever it might be. Same concept. It's the same thing. They were crumbs to us. We've discounted them. We're not talking because we're waiting to try to prepare this grand meal, when in point of fact, that bread that we chopped up, that old stale bread that we could have chopped up and turned into croutons, for example, that instead it was getting old. It wasn't even moldy yet, and we just threw it away. I'm talking about verbally. Okay, in case you didn't catch this, I'm not talking about food at all. I'm talking about your words. I'm talking about that powerful stuff that you're discounting, that you're still not speaking out, when in fact the world needs you right here, right now, today, right now, right now, right now. More, consistently, every day. So you're going to pick up your phone and you're going to at the very least say, hi, my name is, what I do is, and today I just want to tell you about. Those three things. I hope that, like I've done today, you just take that little spark and you go with it. It's not about the clock. It doesn't matter whether you go 35, 40, 45, 50 minutes. It doesn't matter if ChatGPT comes back and tells you like it does me every day. You're still a little long. You should cut them down to 20, 15, or 20 minutes. People are dropping out. I know. But when I go back and I repurpose this, there's something that I said at 22 minutes that was powerful for you. And I'm going to make it into a short, and you're going to see that on TikTok or Instagram, and it's going to change your world. You may actually be seeing this right now. And this phrase that I'm saying right now may be the very water you drink and the very air you breathe. It can possibly be life to you because you now know someone is waiting on you. Let that sink in. And then start sharing your crumbs. Stop discounting the crumbs. I'm not saying don't continue working. Absolutely. Put the word crumb in. Let's get you more clear. Let's get you clear what your crumbs are, and then help develop those crumbs into creme brulee. You know, in other words, not creme brulee, but creme brulee, right? Like what I did with that? Let's turn it into the absolute most delicious, delightful meal that the person in need you are meant to serve has been dying their whole life to hear. All you got to do, again, is drop that word crumb. Put it in the comments. Drop it in a direct message. Tell me, hey, Steve, I need this crumminess and I need it right now. You got to get clear. Somebody's waiting on you. They want you to connect heart to heart, consistently, soul to soul, when they know they can predict exactly when you're going to be here. Every single day would be my suggestion. Take a little bit of time on a Sunday. You don't have to take an hour. It could be 10 seconds. It could be 15 seconds. Hey, it's Sunday and I just wanted to let you know. Steve Kidd here still. I'm here to help you get clear. And today I want you to know your crumbs are worth it. What'd that take me? Was that even 10 seconds? You can do that on Saturday and Sunday. You could do that at the ball field while you're watching the kids play their game. You could do it during the 4th of July barbecue that's coming up on Friday this week. You could do it, in a boat out on the lake. You could do it in an RV driving down the road. You can do it on vacation. You can do it in a box with a fox. You don't even need any green eggs and ham, and you will like it if you do it, Sam. I hope you caught that joke. And I appreciate you doing it. Type the word crumb. Come and join us in Visibility Amplifier community, visibilityamplifier.com. But type that crumb right now. If you do it, I'm even going to give you a super awesome special bonus that I created. I'm going to give you for free my one-page Clarity Kickstart map. That's going to help you start identifying that. Now, it's going to help you identify it just enough that you're going to want to even know more and more and more and more. And I've got all kinds of systems in place for you. That's the tip of the iceberg. Today's the day to be crummy. Not really, but today is the day to scoop up all those crumbs, put them together in a nice little pile, and serve them to somebody who really needs them. And thanks for doing it. I really appreciate you. We're on a process here to get you clear. We're going to be here every day talking to you about what you need to do, what you can do, what you should be doing, how to be clear, consistent, to connect with the people that you're meant to. And I thank you for it. Thanks for joining me. I hope until we're together again next time, you have a great week.